All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, before I get started, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rachah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth and rule well. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, pushing his word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. To you I say shalom. This is the brother Yeshaya coming at you again through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, back again with another lesson. This video is going to be entitled Bad News for Doomsday Preppers, right? Because we understand, any type of prepping, any type of, physical and carnal preparations isn't going to deliver you from these evil days, and ultimately the judgment that's being slated for America, right? Which is thermonuclear destruction. Those little bunkers that they're trying to prep underground cities, none that's going to be able to deliver you, right? Now we've seen videos, in different news articles on some of these rich billionaires or millionaires, building bunkers here in America, or these lower level millionaires, what I'm saying, trying to set up something here, in case of a nuclear apocalypse, right? But the devastation, the destruction that is spoken about in the scriptures, in Revelation, I believe it's 6 and 9, or 9 and 6. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, it was 9 and 6. Let me go to it real quick. Revelation 9 and 6. It says, hold on. Oh, 9 and 16. Salakia. So Revelation 9 and 16. It says, and the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them. So when it's talking about right here is the nuclear missiles, right? The nuclear warheads that's going to hit America, which are 200 million nuclear warheads that are going to hit the soils of America and completely devastate it, to where when you read about it in Revelation 15, let's get this. Revelation 15 and verse 2, it says, and I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that had gotten victory over the beast and over his image and over his mark and over the number of his name stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of the Most High. Right, so that sea of glass, it's really going into, what John witnessed here was, him being on a chariot and looking down, right, as if it was glass, under the chariot, and being able to witness the destruction of America, right? So he saw all of America burn on fire. So 200 nuclear warheads will make this happen, all right? But let's see, let's go to this video, because like I said, you can't really escape what's about to happen, unless you're in these other countries, which are those people that do go into those bunkers, and you know, uh, get preserved, to escape the fallout, of those nuclear missiles. Um, Pretty much those people, those heathen nations, they're going to be the first fruits for slavery, right? And we'll go into this lesson, but I'm gonna play this video real quick, and then we'll get some precepts.
I have noticed a very strange behavior among the rich folk. I've been delivering since 2014, and I have never seen the rich folk prepping like they've been doing the last like 2 months. They have buying a lot of them. I have been buying dry foods, buying generators. A lot of them have been trying, getting like dry foods, rice, like beans, like all this stuff I've been delivering. And when I delivered, they're like, "Oh, put in a garage." One of this other guy, he has his whole entire garage built out. And when I asked him why is he doing it, he's just like my gut feeling. So I don't know what they're being prepped for. Why are they buying so many of the emergencies, like but they're buying a lot. They're prepping, and I deliver to like people who are earning million plus. Some of these houses are like $2-3 million, and they're prepping for something, not to leave or go anywhere, just like to stay in. They're prepping. That's highly suspicious. What do you guys think?
Right. So you have these wealthy people out here prepping, stocking up food, because they understand, some of these Edomites, they're insiders, or they have friends who are insiders, who give them little tidbits of information, telling them to get ready, to prepare, or whatever, right? Because they understand what's coming, right? A famine is coming, lockdowns are coming, you know, really the birth pains, of what they think or what the top elite, want to bring in, which is a new world order, is being felt and is going to amplify. But really, what's really happening is the birth pains of a new system, a new government is about to take place where Yahweh Shai will come and rule over the earth, right? And Esau, he's trying to make, put contingency plans in place, and restart or revamp his the way he um, has the world running, in order to prolong his his rule. But we understand, he has bounds that he cannot pass. So one of those bounds is time, right? His days and months are measured. So there's a certain time uh, um, in place where this man. Well, there's a certain time where this man, will no longer be able to continue to rule, right? And that's going to be the time when Yahweh Shai returns, right? That's the time whenever his system, his whole economy, his everything that this man has established, his kingdom, is about to be, you know, decimated. But let's go ahead and get this real quick, because like I said, they understand this day is coming, right? So let's get Daniel 12 and verse 1. It says, "And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people," right? Which are Israelites, right? So the angels, they're gonna step in and defend the elect of the nation of Israel in this time, right? This is how bad these times are coming, and this is what they're preparing for, right? It says, "And there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time." So no other time in history can compare to this time that we're in, right? Now people can say, "Oh, well, it ain't gonna get that bad," but man, we're in the beginning stages. When you hear these economists, these people that kind of predict about how the future might look like, they're not giving you good, hopeful opinions. A lot of them giving you, you know, giving you a pessimistic viewpoint of how the future looks. You know, and it's the truth. It's just the truth. You know what I'm saying? And starting with the prophets, we've been telling you for the longest of how the outcome is going to play. Right here in America, it's going to be bad. The whole world, around the whole world, is going to be bad. Right? Just imagine they're already talking about, with the fuel shortages, how that's going to affect everything. You know, truck drivers, so groceries uh, to your local food spot or a marketplace. It ain't going to be stocked up. Then you have this war with Iran with the Strait of Hormuz block. It's going to raise up prices, more shortages, right? More raising prices, more shortages, and it's going to continue on from there. So these people, they're preparing, to try to prevent uh, um, getting hit by these blows or being unprepared. But at the end of the day, it's going to get so bad to where even these people, are going to feel it. You know, so prepping ain't going to do anything. Really, what's going to save some people in this time is their faith and trust in Yahweh Bashim Shah. But that's only afforded to the elect of the nation of Israel, right? First and foremost, you got to be an Israelite, right, for the Most High to, what I'm saying, uh, to give you that protection. And second of all, you got to be of the elect, right? So as it says, um, it says, and at that time, thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. You see? So again, you got to be part of the elect. So let's get another one. Go to the Apocrypha. Let's get Second Ezra's 15 and 19. Excuse me. But Second Ezra's 15 and 19, it says, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. You see? So you're gonna have in these times people kicking down other people's doors because maybe they heard that they were doomsday prepping. They stockpiled their cans, their beans, their rice, like the dude was saying, their dry foods, right? Because a lot of people are doing this, especially these Edomites, stocking up ammunition, training with at the range with their guns, right? Putting defenses up, getting the family ready and physically ready, you know what I'm saying? Learning how to fight, right? Like I said, stocking up food, buying gold and silver, right? In order to be stable in these days coming in, have some form of security, right? The scriptures talk about how money's a defense, right? So that's what they're using it for. But at the end of the day, none of that's going to save them, right? Because ultimately, what's going to save the elect is wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. That's what's going to keep us in a good uh, 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 frame of mind, right? That's what's going to keep us stable. That's what's going to give us ultimately to reap those benefits of um, what you call miracles, right? That's spiritual protection, where the angel's going to fend for you. The Most High is going to step pretty much guide your path, to and make it to where say no harm comes to you. Even though we understand some of us is going to be made martyrs, but that protection is going to be there, right? So as I entitled this, "Bad News for Doomsday Preppers," because at the end of the day, your doomsday prepping is all going to be for naught. It's all going to be in vain. Who's to say you'll be able to have access to that food when that time comes? You can be away from your house, and then all hell breaks loose. The scriptures talk about how the day of the Lord shall be as a thief in the night, right? So it's going to be unexpected, right? They can lock down the city. They can lock shit down, you know, uh, 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 at a moment's notice, and now you're stuck in one certain location. You can't get access to, you know, all this food and all this prepping that you have stored up, at a certain location. And that food can just be preserved for one of the elect to stumble across it, and then they're fed, right? Now let's see. Let's get one more. But again, like we read right here in Second Ezra 15 and 19, right? You're gonna have that lack of bread, that famine, that's gonna trigger, all out chaos, in America. Like I said, you're gonna have people kicking indoors. You're gonna have people robbing, looting, stealing. You know. But let me see. Let's get Isaiah 13, and we'll start at verse 6. It says, "Okay, how ye for the day of the Lord Yahweh is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt, and they shall be afraid Pains and sorrow shall take hold of them. Right? Everybody's gonna be afraid. Shit, these Edomites just thinking about, you know, these different scenarios, puts fear in their heart. This is the reason why they're prepping, why they're getting ready, because they don't think it's judgment from the Lord. They think it's just some event, some natural thing that happens at the end of an empire, yada yada yada. But they don't understand the judgment part of this. This is judgment prepared from Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, right? But it says, and they shall be afraid. Pains and sorrow shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames. Right? They're gonna be amazed one at another. They're gonna be looking at each other like, "What do we do?" Right? They ain't gonna know what to do because none of that shit that they prep for is gonna be able to save them. Right? But let me see. Let's get one more. Well, as a matter of fact, I have another video. I'm gonna play this next video real quick too. Um, this one right here. So I don't understand why it's not playing the sound. Salakia. Yeah, it's not working for me. I don't know what it is. Somehow the sound ain't working. But anyway, yeah, it just ain't working. But you see right here, right? It says White Switzerland has 374,142 bunkers and likely more, right? So what I read was really in this video, it kind of goes into it, is how Switzerland has a lot of bunkers to the point where they can fit their entire population underground, right? They're able to fit, um, I think I said like 110%, of their population into there, in under there, right? And this is all prophetic. This is all spoken about in prophecies. How these heathen, they're gonna have these bunkers, and this is just one of the bunkers, one of the many bunkers that they got, right? But um, it's spoken about in prophecy how they're gonna be going, you know, under these, underground in order to escape the wrath of the Lord, right? Let me see. I don't know why the sound ain't working. But you kind of see it right here, right? They have turrets, right, to protect them. But yeah, yeah, that's it. You get the point. Let's get Isaiah, the second chapter, and verse 19. It says, "And they shall go into the holes of the rocks and into the caves of the earth, for the fear of the Lord and for the glory of His majesty, when He arises to shake terribly the earth." You see, when He arises to shake terribly the earth, how's the earth, gonna shake? The scriptures talk about in Isaiah 24, I believe. No, it ain't. Isaiah 20, Salakia. Isaiah 20 and 24, I think it is. Salakia. Let me look it up real quick. How's it go? Real to and fro. Okay, so it was Isaiah 24. But it says Isaiah 24 and 20, it says, "The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. Right? So how is this going to happen? I should have read verse 19. So it says, verse 19, the earth is utterly broken down, the earth is clean dissolved, the earth is moved exceedingly. Right? And that's going to be by the way of the ICBM missiles, right? 200 uh, million nuclear warheads that are going to hit America and other parts of the earth is going to make this place, is going to make the whole earth rock, you know, it's going to make it real to and fro, right? So when you go back to Isaiah, the second chapter, right, these people, they're going to be going into the caves, into their dumbs, right, their bunkers to escape that, you know, nuclear destruction. You know, now some of these other nations are going to be going into the bunkers anyway just to hide, but also to escape the fallout. You know, there's going to be a lot of fallout after those nukes go off. You know, so they're going to be hiding in there for the dust to clear out in order for them to try to come up later, you know, and reclaim the earth. But not knowing that all that ain't going to happen, you know, because the earth is going to be transferred over to Yahweh Shah, you know, and the Israelites are going to reign, right? So let's get one more. Let's get Revelation 6 and verse 15. It says, and the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the day is great, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? Right? So they're going to be going to the mountains. They're going to be going to these different caves, right? To hide themselves, right? From the chariots, from the angels, right? From Yahweh Shah, you know? But that's not going to be enough. Because like I said, they're going to be preserved for a certain time period. But then when the dust settles, they're not going to come out and reclaim the earth. No, we're going to come down, take the earth, and take them and put them in captivity. Right? That's in Jeremiah. And I'll close it off with this. Right? This is, you know, all your doomsday prep in Esau, you know, is for naught. You know what I'm saying? You might as well just give up. But really, this is all the will of the Lord. You know, the Most High wants action. The Most High wants a show. So this is Jeremiah 16 and 16. Behold, I will send for many fishers, saith the Lord, and they shall fish them. And after will I send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill and out of the holes of the rocks. You see? And that's now the fishers are what? The prophets, right? Fishers of men, you know? We're using this word to lure in, right? The elect, right? But soon we're going to be transformed into hunters. We're going to be given that spiritual power to go and hunt down these wicked people. And really, the ultimate form of that is whenever we come back down, right? After the, you know, the nuclear bombs, you know, the elect are going to be, you know, taken up into the chariots, or at simultaneously when the bombs drop, the elect are going to be taken up, and after the dust settles, we're going to come down and hunt these people down, right? Verse 17, it says, for mine eyes are upon all their ways, and they are not hid from my face. So the Most High knows everything. He knows where they're at. We're going to know where they're at. As soon as we come back down, that's the first thing we're going to do, is going to grab them up and put them in chains, right? It says, neither is there iniquity hid from mine eyes. So let's get this real quick. Psalms 149, in verse 5, it says, let the saints be joyful in glory, let them sing aloud upon their beds. Let the high praises of the Most High be in their mouth, and a two-edged sword in their hand, to execute vengeance upon the heathen and punishments upon the people. So we're gonna be executing vengeance and punishments, right? The Most High is gonna use His people to bring vengeance and punishments upon the people, upon the heathen, to bind their kings with chains and nobles with fetters of iron. So we're gonna be putting these people in shackles, man. You know how they had us when we were in slavery? We're gonna have them the exact same way. This is to execute upon them the judgment written. This honor have all His saints. Praise ye the Lord. You know, so this is written. This is a judgment that's about to be enacted on the planet Earth upon all these heathen, right? And the Israelites are going to be up top, and every other nation is going to be beneath, and they're going to serve us in perpetual servitude, man. Right? So yeah, that was pretty much it. Um, all this doomsday prepping, it's kind of funny because, like I said, when you know what is really going on or what really is going to go on here soon, we understand that some of these places are going to be used for Jake. Jake is going to, one of the elect is going to stumble across some of these things and is going to preserve them. You know, there's a scripture that goes into that too. How um, pretty much how the riches of the wicked are pretty much going to be transferred onto those who need it. I can't remember exactly how it goes, but something along those lines. Or it's going to be transferred over to the righteous, something like that. Um, if I find that, I'll just put it in the comment section. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go ahead and close it out by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Racha Hakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth and rule well. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, pushing His word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Until the next time, I'm gonna say Shalom, Kwame Shalom.